quite snug.
Very snug.
And cosy.
And cosy. Hello. Welcome to another
The English Couple.
And this time we're back in the kitchen. It's nice to be back in the kitchen.
It is.
It's nice to be on the sofa. It's nice to be in the kitchen.
It's nice to move around.
Yes. One day we'll take you up to the lavatory. No.
Or not.
Well, not as the case may happen. Now, today we're going to talk about a subject because I've been feeling a little under the weather.
You have.
Can you see the clouds
Yes,
going
big dark
across,
cloud. It's about to rain on you.
gathering over my head?
Go away, go away.
Go away, you swines. Yes, you know what it's like when you get a cold. It's always this sort of time. And over Christmas, I had a little bit of a bunged up thing. It's nothing major. It's not influenza. It's not all the other things that are going around. It's just your
Just
random
winter weather.
48-hour thing, probably like that. A little bit chesty. It affected my voice initially. My voice seems perfectly fine right now.
Dilly-dum.
Anyway, before we get on to that, we would so what we thought we would do is talk about actually caring for one another when one is feeling so rough and poorly. And we're going to have a cup of tea and have some lovely biscuits. But before that, we had a knock at the door the other day. And Christmas has been now. I don't have to do any more goosing jokes.
No, thank goodness for
Fortunately.
that.
But we were given...
Your goose is cooked.
Yes, well and truly cooked and eaten. And on its way to the...
Lavatory.
Huage farm. Anyway, we were given some more gifts. What were we given,
We
lovely
were.
Jim?
These lovely pennies.
We got some more pennies. We don't know who sent them, though.
No.
We're a bit unsure because there was no message in a bottle to go with it.
But yes.
And we can't really show you terribly well, but they do say, as you can probably read,
Our names.
Richard and Julia. By the way, for those people who are slightly confused, Julia, not Julie. Julia.
It's a totally different name.
But thank you very much, whoever that was who sent these in. That's so kind. And we thought, well, we've got some over here for the kitchen. We've got plenty in the kitchen.
Yes, we've been very lucky. We've had several sent in lately, haven't we? So
we
we've
thought-
decided...
We're going to put them in the van.
Yes.
So when we go out and we start cooking in the van, which we will do, and we'll do some of these English couples from the van, and we get out, you know, we sort of cook a meal in the great, what do they call it? Al fresco.
Al fresco.
Al? Good old Al.
I think it's al fresco.
Yeah, he's a nice bloke, isn't he, Al? We'll do that in the van. So thank you very much. These will be lovely.
We'll match the van, won't we? This
It'll
lovely
match the van, so,
black bit,
yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Whoever you be.
Whoever you
Very
be.
kind, generous benefactor.
Now, shall we have a cup of tea whilst
think
we're
we
talking?
should.
Because we are the English couple,
We
don't
are.
you know?
We are.
Absolutely.
And we must not raise our little pinkies because apparently that's rude.
Oh, is it rude, raising the little...
Whatever.
Who knew that?
Whatever.
That's rude, mate. That's rude. So, yes, I've been feeling a bit under the weather, but, you know, I'm typical English, don't you know, stiff upper lip, very stoic, still pick up the old bowler hat and umbrella and head off in the pinstripe suit to work, come what may. Although not literally doing that. Oh, that looks nice. Nice cup of tea.
Hope that's not too much milk.
No, not at all. It's
Excellent.
absolutely divine, dear boy.
Eggshell.
I'll try not to be too rude and munch too many biscuits whilst I'm talking.
Yes.
But you know what I'm like. I'm very uncouth. Anyway, so looking after... Now, because Julia has 2 children, and looking after children, because children, especially when they're very young, they're catching everything that God sends.
Yep. Especially within the first year of starting preschool, school, nursery, whatever it is, they start first.
And they're running around in amongst all the other little brats who are not as nice or as handsome or as beautiful as your own children, of course, with their snotty noses that parents can't be bothered to sort of give hankies, you know, stuff them up their elbows. And they've got these little, what do you call these little snails or slugs? Or
Snail trails, I don't know.
Yes.
Bogies.
You know, they dribble down like this, the pus is coming out their ears, the boils, the lice.
But do you know what, though? It doesn't matter what you do for a child. That you know, if you stick that tissue, you know, you do their nose, stick the tissue in there, they're never going to use it again.
I think the fun is trying to get a very young child to understand that he can do this motion. You know, blowing the nose, because they sometimes they you know, when they're really young and you go blow your nose, and he just looks at you like, I have no idea what that means. Blow your nose? What does that mean?
My mother-in-law was surprised that I managed to teach both of mine that fairly early.
Yeah.
a little bit of a dicky tummy in that way, though. I snot and things like that. They make my stomach turn.
And I'm amazed that you've taught me how to do it after so many years. So,
yes, me too. I mean, gosh, that was more difficult.
You just didn't like it, just dribbling down like that?
No, to kiss you. And anyway, let's move on.
Yes, move
please.
on. So, yes, looking after children, of course, that's all very thing. And it's that difficult thing about, whether to send them to school when they're feeling a bit poorly, or are you really ill? Or do you just not want to go to school today? You're just a bit tired and you can't be bothered to get off your arse and go and, so you've got to make so many decisions. How ill are they to actually go off into the world?
And do they need to see the doctor? If so, can you even get to see the doctor?
Yes, these days, it's also... In the old days, of course, the doctor used to come round, didn't he, with his stethoscope and all that, and you sort of almost feared the doctor. And you go, no, don't need to call the doctor, I'm fine.
I'll go to school.
I think men are a bit like that, though, still, aren't they? Men don't like to admit too much that they can't do it, although they'll moan like hell and have man flu and be as ill as anything. But, why don't you go and see the doctor about that spot? No, there's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with that spot on the end of my nose. Well, it could be something serious.
I'll keep an eye on it.
I'll keep an eye on it, don't you worry. Actually, now you've made me... Because I've got the problem of... I have got to blow the old ooter.
I've not been having to look after the children for the last few days since Christmas Eve, because they've been off with their dad, enjoying the other side of the family, who they've only actually seen twice now this year. So that's been lovely.
It's interesting you say that, because it's usually the mother that has to take on the role of the wet nurse. Wet nurse? A nurse, dry nurse, whatever nurse it is.
Night nurse.
Looking after the kids. Because so often, now this might be a sweeping statement, and I'm casting aspersions, but most men don't want to deal with little ones who are ill. There's far better things to get on with, like my Meccano set that I'm still doing, or my Scalextrics, or my train set that I've got to fix. I don't want to deal with the little children. That's women's work, and I suppose it's been perceived that way for a long time, hasn't it?
Yes, I mean, generally, I suppose women tend to be more, nurturing and
sympathetic.
I mean, men aren't banned from being nurses, but you'll more often than not find females to be in the role.
Yes.
There's no shame in that.
No. I'm just sort of saying. I think it's more women that sort of naturally do that.
Probably why it tends to be that way. So. But anyway, I haven't had to do that for the last few days, but I've been looking after you instead.
Yeah, you've been looking after me. Oh, I've been lying in bed, lying there. She's come over and put a cold compress on my head. I don't know what a cold compress is, but she's been pressing
usually
it very hard.
Usually a flannel with cool water in it.
Oh, there we are. And I've been going, oh, woe is me, woe is me.
It's not actually been that bad. You've equally been looking after me.
More chocolate, I think, is what I need. Another hot chocolate, another big piece of...
Another cup of tea.
American apple pie. That's not actually American. Yes, and...
American as apple pie, they say.
Yeah, so
English.
Could you light the AC? Could you sweep the floor? Can you clean the window? And whilst you're at it, the grouting on the chimney needs attention. Could you just... Oh, I'm so ill, I can't do it. It's interesting taking the side where you have to look after adults. I had to look after my dad when he got dementia. And that's very odd situation to be in. And I know millions of people are in this situation now. It seems to be the modern disease, does it?
It's a very difficult situation to be in, isn't it?
You never expect, as a child, or you're always the child of a parent, aren't you? You never expect to have to, warning here, alert, wipe your father's bum or your parents' bum,
bottom,
and deal with those personal, private issues that everybody has. But there came a point where I had to do it. You grow up very, all those sensibilities that you go, oh no, I couldn't possibly do. You grow up very quickly when you're looking after somebody who's elderly, incapable, and out of their mind. Because you have to. It's the only way you can survive. And those things that you wouldn't ordinarily countenance are thrust in your face unexpectedly at all different times. And some people, I mean, when you hear the accounts of other people who've looked after their parents who have had dementia, and some of the bile that is thrown at you, you know, that they not only do they not recognise you as their own children, which was in my case, but they can be really nasty or swear and all of these things, and you think, bloody hell, that's my loving parent. What's happened to you? And you almost think that the devil has possessed them, which you can imagine how in the old days it would have been perceived.
That way, yeah.
I was very lucky that Dad wasn't quite that bad, but he didn't know who. He kept thinking that I was his parent. That was the thing. And my sister, who helped, we were, you know, his mummy and daddy, he would say. And it's soul destroying. And it did take a long time for us to realise it was dementia and not just a little bit of senility. Senility? Is that how you pronounce it?
Senility.
Yeah, whatever it is.
However you say that.
Yeah, so going through that was very traumatic and difficult. And I know a lot of people do that. And so, you know, you just wish them the best of bloody luck. Because most colds and most illnesses, we're very lucky as a human species. We do tend to get better.
Yes, without any intervention.
Yes.
I mean, we use things to, you know, like Olbus oil and Vicks and things like that to help the congestion ease enough to breathe a bit more at night time and things like that. But there's not a lot more you can do for it, is it?
No. And I'm somebody who avoids as much medication as I can. I don't dose myself. The minute I get something, I don't think, oh, right, straight down the medical aisle or the medicine aisle in the supermarkets and go, right, we'll have some of this at night time, some of this in the day, 400 tons of this during the, and these powders and that and all of that. My mum used to. You know, you get you dosed up with all these chemicals, but I never really found. I still had to go through, say, a common cold of about a week. It still didn't make much difference. The hot lemon and honey was about really all I needed, and maybe a paracetamol.
Yes.
But some people really love their lotions and potions too.
Yes.
I think I don't know whether that's
Well,
the apothecary in people, the sort of, oh, well, if we do a little bit of this and we do a little bit of that, whether it's psychosomatic.
You've put that in my head again.
No, I didn't.
The birdie song keeps coming into my head. It's very irritating. But anyway.
It is irritating.
But I've recently discovered the Wonders of Echinacea, however you pronounce it. And
Which is a flower, isn't it?
It is a flower. It's a herb. And
herb, yeah.
yeah, it gets, I don't know how they put it into a pill, but it becomes, you can buy it in pill form. And as soon as you get, you know, you have the first symptoms of am I getting a cold or something, you pop one or two, and
Yes.
it helps your immune system resist.
Well, I definitely think, you know, the natural world has provided pretty much
Everything
all the cures that you would need.
Hundreds of thousands of years.
Maybe in this more modern world in which we've been fiddling about with the DNA of things and changed the molecular structure of things, that perhaps nature hadn't conceived that the human would be fiddling around in that way and has produced these weird colds that we need perhaps weird solutions for. I don't know. I mean, but generally,
not scientists or we're not chemists or anything.
Yeah, but the normal sort of viruses and infections that one gets, I do believe that there are plenty of herbal remedies and also just that thing about looking after your health 24/7 anyway. You know, not trying to take too much wine or alcohol rather, and not reducing your smoking or not smoking at all, ideally, not too much sugar, getting your exercise, you know, all that just stuff that we all know is true for a healthy lifestyle. Not necessarily gone to excess.
No.
But
It's easier said than done though, isn't it?
I know, but I don't, I see, I'm, can I have another cup of tea?
Of course.
I am somebody who doesn't, you know, you might think, oh, Richard, you're just a goody two-shoes. And I suppose I am in a way, because I've never smoked. And I never really got into alcohol in a big way. Occasionally I would have the odd pint, but that would be it. You see people going and they say, oh, I had 8 pints last night. And you just think, where do you physically put it? But I also...
Go straight through them.
I just know that I don't take drugs. I just think, why would you do all those things to the body when we're educated and we're civilized and we understand that these things aren't good? You know, I know some people love an alcoholic drink every night.
Yeah. A tipple, they call
A
it,
tipple,
don't they?
yeah. But then, and then if they don't have it, they're a little bit, oh, well, you know, they say they don't have an alcoholic problem. And it's because they may not be technically alcoholic and out of their heads like my mother was when I was growing up. So I have a respect for alcohol, like I suppose a sailor has a respect for the sea. You know how dangerous it can be because you've seen people fall overboard and drown. And I have a respect for alcohol. But those people who have a drink pretty much religiously, it may only be one drink every day, but they must have it. Well, that's a habit then. That's out of control, isn't it? Because if they can't get through a night without actually having a single drink, and it's having an effect on you. Of course it is, because it's going to affect your body. So looking after yourself, being healthy, is the number one thing to ward off and make any of the viruses, infections, reduce their time and their potency.
Yep. Keep your body fit and strong to fight these things off as rapidly as possible, really.
Yeah. So be interested to know, are you somebody who runs for the medicine aisle? Do you nip down to the chemist? I mean, we have this, my mother, sorry, I'm dominating the conversation, I don't mean to.
Try and get a word in, but it's all right.
My mother used to, every time she got ill, she would demand antibiotics for everything. She didn't matter. She would be a nuisance on the doctor, and she got banned from loads of practices.
I was going to say that compounds the problem, doesn't it? Because if you rely on these antibiotics, they should be the very last resort, you know, because the body builds a resistance to them.
Yeah.
So in the end, they're not actually helping you, but you're just taking up resources that you don't actually need. It's a shame, isn't it? But
what were you going to say that I was?
There's been several things I was going to say throughout the course, but oh yes, I mean, so do you run to the chemist, or do you run to your herbalist, or do you quickly make up a nice batch of chicken soup for the soul and the body?
Because some people run to their mothers, don't they?
Yes, because there's
for
nothing
old remedies.
There's nothing quite like Mama's cooking, is there? Let's face it.
And I suppose it's that parent thing, isn't it? That something's been handed down to your parent, and that parent hands it down to you. So always that generation before you, generally, sweeping statement, has some wisdom that you know, suddenly your child has got something and you go, I don't know what it is. Should I go to the doctor? Shouldn't I? And, you know, and I've seen you ring up your mum and you say, Mummy, I don't feel very well. Yeah, what should I do? My head's just rolled down the road. I can't think what to do with it.
The funny thing is, often all I really need, you know, personally, all I really need is Mum go, oh, darling. You know, that's...
sympathy.
Like, and it feels like your mum's giving you a nice warm hug. It's like, yep, that's better. I can deal with it now.
And I think in life, in general, we put ourselves, not deliberately, I think, but we've made society so full of pressure and stress that when you are ill, you feel that you're guilty if you take time off from work, although what with the recent pandemic, of course, everybody was told, you know, you mustn't come in if you've got the slightest thing. So you've got the opposite side of the coin there. But you know, very rarely do you get that feeling that you can actually say, do you know what, I need to have 2 days where I just chill out completely. And I'm a bit of a workaholic.
You don't say.
Yeah, I do. And I enjoy what I do, of course, so I find it difficult to take that time off, although I'm spending more time reading than I ever did now.
Which is good.
Which is great. Which is my way of relaxing and also putting stuff into the brain.
It keeps the ticker going, doesn't it? The old tinker, the ticker. Anyway.
And I think that mild stimulation on something like reading or whatever, or getting away from the daily toil, is all part of the healing process in and of itself. Also, a walk in the countryside, a walk through the woods.
Taking the airs.
I mean, people always say these things like being close to nature for a bit. And you think, well, this is innate in us. We sort of know this, but we don't know it. We don't follow it in our daily lives. We spend our lives in cities and towns with artificial lights and artificial things.
And air conditioning.
And all of that. And yet we know that getting back to nature is the thing that when you're feeling run down and tired, you should go and do. And you think, well, why don't we do more of that just generally?
I mean, it is so good just taking a walk through a little bit of woodlands where you're breathing this fresh air that the trees are creating right around you.
Yeah.
and just, I don't know, there's something emotionally and deeply
wholesome
about being in that environment, because, well, let's face it, that is as close to where we've come from as a species, you know.
Yes.
We've evolved from the forest in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, some people
hundreds of
embrace
thousands
the
of years.
artificial world, don't they? They love cities. They love living in the cities. They like the sort of the pace of it, the beat of it, the throbbing, and almost can't sit still and can't be quiet, or indeed meditative.
Good word.
Thank you. And yet, I feel that's something that again would have been for hundreds of, for thousands of years. Man would have been out in the wild. You know, we're a creature from the wild, and the artificial world, whilst convenient, keeps us safe, keeps us warm and all of those things.
Sometimes too warm.
And sometimes too warm.
Tarmac,
Can also remove us from part of our essence of being. That's getting a bit deep now, isn't it?
Yes, we're getting a bit too deep.
But that's part of being healthy and nurturing one another. So, getting people out into the open is a good thing. But this was supposed to be more about looking after each other rather than general health.
Yeah. So bringing each other a hot cup of Bovril or Marmite is one little thing that one can do, isn't it?
Yes, having somebody. I mean, I think it must be very. I mean, I've been on my own for quite some time before the lovely Julia came into my life. And if you're a bit ill, or if you've got kids who are ill and you're feeling ill as well, and you get them off to school, and then there's nobody in the house to look after you, we all need, just somebody, even if it's a phone call, just to say, you're all right, how you doing? That picks you up in itself, doesn't it?
Yes.
But there are loads of people on their own and probably living horrible, miserable lives if they're under the weather, and that's just what do you do? I don't know. It's very sad. It is very sad for those people, but then again it comes back to this artificial world in which society has grown so large, communities have grown so large that you no longer know your neighbour. And when you think of the old villages and the way people used to live, they were all part of a community, a rural community, working on the farm, perhaps for an estate. And you would know when somebody's not very well. Old Mrs. Dickens is not very good at the moment.
Yeah, and people would randomly drop by with some, a bowl of a soup or
and
something.
it would just keep the cohesion of the society going, and everybody would be looking out, whoops-a-daisy, for each other.
Don't want it, just chuck it.
No. So, and these are the sort of problem, because we haven't had the modernity for that long in reality, have we? And we're all trying to learn how living in cities and towns is really good, only several generations when you really think about it, a couple of 100 years or so that we've been in this, and it's still in its early days of experimentation.
Yeah, I think that we're already seeing lots of evidence that living in mass conglomerates like this isn't healthy.
No.
We're not meant to be stuck in amongst that many other people. Granted, we need people, we need society, we need that community, but there's a certain level, not too few, not too many. I mean, villages spread about. That was ideal, with the forest and thing in between. That's woodlands, marshes, whatever. Forest is a large word that encompasses lots of different habitats.
Types of terrain,
exactly. So I mean that's some.
And
I think you see where I'm going.
We could wax lyrical
My
about that.
heart just went boom.
But looking after each other, it's an important thing, and especially as a couple, the English couple as we are, I've very much appreciated Julia looking after me and having somebody to look after you, because I think that also helps you to recover quickly, having the love of somebody who cares for you. I think that's a thing, and when you've been feeling rough, of course, I've made sure I was miles away.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, you knew. No, of course, I wanted to look after you, and we did a video, well, about 6 months ago, didn't we, on our van trip, and you suddenly feeling rough.
Oh, yes.
And we had to come back, and instantly you go, it doesn't matter. When somebody's ill, you may be off on a wonderful trip. You go, well, you're ill. Come on. We take you home, forget that. All those other things, those those material things are forgotten because the health of the person and the love for the person is most paramount.
That's right. Yeah. I still think it was hilarious on the watch back on that episode when you finally brought me home and you open the van door and get out and film me getting out and you say, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Uh-huh," looking absolutely like I do not feel or
White as
or
a
look
sheet.
all right at
Yeah.
all. It was just so funny. Uh-huh. But you were absolutely sterling and you looked after me very well.
I do my best.
I was in good hands.
Anyway, we'd love to know what you do, how you cope with being ill and dealing with loved ones or not loved ones, or if you've had to look after your parents and all of that. Do share your experiences in the comments if you would like. Mm-hmm. And we are going to munch biscuits, which are completely unhealthy for you, and get ourselves all into a bit of a stupor with another cup of tea.
I'm sure there's so much more we could have said on the subject, but we'll leave the rest to you to say.
Yes. So till next time, from Julia and I, goodbye.
Bye-bye.